Kirti. I just wanted to pick on what you wrote very provocatively, very recently, right? The conversation about, I wish I could have written it, and as a male author, I would have been brutally trolled of office power in your pants. That's something that you provocatively asked. And what I wanted to bring you in is to ask that question: what triggered it? Why, apart from the Coldplay concert and all of that, there is something which we have very thoughtfully and with deep insights written about it.
So, Srinath, I started writing this piece before the Coldplay concert happened. Like me and Kalyan, we had pitched in and we were brainstorming on it. And the day I was supposed to submit the piece, the Coldplay thing happened. So I just weaved it in because I was looking for a case study for this and it was just to the point. And coming back to your pants, yes. When I said power doesn't stay in pants, it is provocative and it was intentionally so because I wanted to bring out an uncomfortable truth that power doesn't end at policy. It shows up. It shows up in how we touch, it shows up in how we love, it shows up in how we desire and how we dominate. And as a psychologist, I have seen the fallout of this power in intimacy. And not just in these headlines or kiss cam stories, but also in therapy rooms that are prequel or sequel to divorces, which are prequel and or sequel to silent dinner time conversations. Imagery, yes, I agree it was visceral, but sometimes you need visceral frameworks to expose an institutional blind spot. And I chose pants not because it is gendered, but because it is a symbol of control, territory, and authority. The point wasn't anatomy, and it was dominance. And that said, I agree with you that had it flipped the genders of the author, we would have likely recoiled. And that's the gender tax of power. It hits differently to men and women. When I have read researches that say that when men wield power, oh, they are also sexy. But when women do the same, it becomes offensive. His promotion, his hotter sex life, and hers increases divorce risks by 58%. And that is not just biology, it is not just bias, it is also conditioning and systemic design colliding. So, if that line made people uncomfortable, good, because discomfort is data. It is an opening to a deeper story where one asks why female ambition is threatening to intimacy and why male ambition inflates it. And that's the real story that I wanted to unpack in my article, that the same power that elevates us professionally erases us personally unless we are aware, we are intentional, and we are supportive.
So great. So let me. You kind of answered some of my questions that I had about gender dynamics of power, and also the myth that we have kind of a, I wouldn't call it a cognitive bias, but more social bias about when you say wear the pants, so to speak, as a phrase. We almost instinctively think of it as male, and sometimes we very proudly think of it as power symbol, not necessarily alluding to culture or costume. So I want to bring you to something else that you have written, and I know we have chatted about it before as well. You write what we perceive as chemistry at work is often just hierarchy. That's a very big claim and a bold claim. But what do you also mean by what you have used in the past, saying that hierarchy porn?
I made a bold claim, but my bold claim is backed by neuroscience. See, when I call it hierarchy porn, I'm not being flippant. I'm precisely naming psychological arousal that we feel around power and which gets misread as attraction. The intern who's drawn to the boss, the team member who can't stop thinking about the assertive leader. It feels like chemistry, but what is actually happening is dopamine strike triggered by dominance cues, voice control, decision making power, command of attention. And We are evolutionary. Our brain is wired to respond to status. In modern workplaces, status is hierarchy. So body reacts. There's faster heart rate. There is tunnel vision. Um, tunnel vision. There is excitement, and we think it's connection, but it is not. It is about proximity to power. So hierarchy porn. When I wrote that, it was my shorthand for those workplace dynamics where dominance become eroticized. Often unconsciously, it's not lust. It's a leverage which gets mistaken for longing. This time, I use this phrase not to provoke, but to label a dangerous illusion because unless we name it, how can we interrupt it?
So there, I want to bring you our attention, Kirti. I mean, what you're saying is very probably increasing on the workplace and often romanticized by, um, let's say, it was always romanticized by cinema, and now we have OTTs and short films of the world. And there's also the danger of double-edged sword on the other side, which means that whatever happens, just like the Coldplay camera, somebody within the office could be writing a gossip column, putting it out, WhatsApp gossip news, everything and anything can come out. So where is that dangerous thin line? Where what could be a consensual power play, if I can use that word, between two consulting adults? As long as somebody doesn't blow the whistle, it's still consulting to an extent. Or no is no. At what point does it become, let's say, aggression turning into control, or assertiveness turning into control? And what time do those relationships go south?
So, when we are talking about assertiveness turning into control, I think one golden rule is assertiveness turns into control the moment it stops being reciprocal. If I talk from psychological perspective, we define assertiveness as expressing what I need at the same time respecting what you need. And it is a mutual skill that strengthens a relationship. But when this assertiveness, it lacks empathy, when it lacks reciprocity, it slips into control, where one voice dominates and others is slowly silenced. I always tell my clients that one good way to know the line between assertiveness and control is assertiveness is a dialogue, control is a monologue. And the tipping point that you're talking about, where relationship goes south, is usually the predictability. If there is one person who always decides, if there is one person who always sets the tone or gets the last word, then that's not leadership. That's habituated dominance. We call it failure to accept influence, and it is a strong predictor of relationship breakdown. And what makes this interestingly especially tricky is a good intentions trap. Like when I'm in therapy room and the controlling person, they often justify the control as care. They say, but I was just being protective. Oh, I know what's the best. I was being efficient. But that defensive pattern, it often masks a deeper emotional insecurity. What that person is actually saying is, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of being vulnerable. I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of loss of control. And in workplace, this gets murkier because we reward people for being decisive, for leading from the front. But rarely we are teaching them how to downshift in their personal lives. What looks as efficiency at work often becomes emotional inflexibility at home. So, if I look at emotional intelligence theory, it says assertiveness without of self-awareness is coercive. Without empathy, it becomes manipulative. And it is not a bedroom issue, it's a policymaker issue, it's a leadership issue because systems don't just transfer skills, they also transfer your scripts. If leadership pipeline teaches without pause, power without pause, confidence without humility, decision making without attunement, we are creating institutions that reward assertiveness but ignore emotional ethics. So, assertiveness says, here is what I need. Control says, here is how you must behave. And the policymaker must learn to tell the difference before homes, teams, and entire systems just break down under the illusion of strength.
So Kirti, I mean, let's now break it down far simpler for, let's say, a 24-year-old setting out life in corporate India. What will be the tipping point that he or she should look for? And say if these are the lead indicators of something going south, they must seek help. And when I say help, it could be in the form of going to a committee, ethics committee within the organization, or counseling, and so on and so forth. What will be those subtle signals? Because what you spoke about, the theory, and especially the human behavioral aspect of it, may not cut eyes with, let's say, somebody who says, "Hey, I am 22. I don't get this theory." So give it to them in small bits and pieces of what should they look for.
Again, just two words: reciprocity and predictability.
So reciprocity. If I were a 22-year-old, my first job, everybody is a boss to me, and there will not be reciprocity. So I don't know how to, I don't know whether something is wrong, or I don't know when something is wrong, what to do. I mean, there are two levels like this. So how would they react, or how should they think through this?
So, when I talk about powers play in in intimacy, and in how boardroom is coming into bedroom, I'm talking about people who are actually in position of power. So when we talk about a 22-year-old where the power is limited, then I think it comes, then I think they need to speak up. They need to find a place to create a feedback loop. Maybe looping in HR is an issue. Find their voice that is assertive. It could come from small phrases like that, I appreciate your point, and I would also appreciate given to be given a chance to put forward my point of view whenever you think it's convenient. So, changing those small dialogues can really help a 22-year-old.
Understood. So what is that? I mean, the other way of asking it, what are we collectively afraid to face? I mean, what is that discomfort or the more elephant in the room, so to speak, about leadership and desire and power play, apart from what you have written?
Apart from what I have written, I will go back to where we started. And I think it is that how genders also pay the power tax. Um, I feel that is the uncomfortable truth. Power's gender tax. Why does female ambition threaten intimacy? Why male ambition inflates it? Like we in psychology, we call it intimacy authority trade off, and it plays out very differently for men and women. And yes, there are powerful men and women both thriving. There are powerful women who are thriving in both career and love. And that is so heartening to see, and we need more such models. But these models, they are anecdotes, they are not architecture. And when I speak as a psychologist, I don't speak from exceptions. I speak from where I see patterns. And the research here is striking. We have found that for women, the chances of divorce jumped to 58% after being promoted to CEO. For men, marriage stability improved. When heterosexual couples were asked that where women earn more, men rated lower relationships satisfaction even when they identified as being progressive. This is because our ambition is socially gendered. When men rises, he's seen as desirable, more in control. When a woman rises, she's subtly coded as less feminine, more threatening, not just by society, but by her own partner. And it is not about blaming men or calling women victim. It is about pointing out our conditioning that we have built our model of intimacy around patriarchy for so long that shared power feels unnatural even to those who believe in equality. And when I say that, people always give me a pushback that you are quoting Western researches. Of course, I'm quoting Western researches because in India we don't have enough localized data on this. And that absence of data is not proof of absence of phenomena. It's just a mirror that we haven't funded, we haven't researched, or even felt safe to study it. In my therapy room, I see women with these themes, with their emotional double shifts, with their marital strain, and the cost of success at home. When here in India, a powerful woman might not get divorced, it will shrink. In therapy room, I've seen powerful women toning down their success, softening their voice, dimming their visibility, just because they are afraid that their man can would go into the arms of their subordinate. And unfortunately, in my therapy room, I've also seen that despite women taking a step back from their career, stop shining bright, it doesn't stop that from happening, which they fear. And again, this is not a woman's problem or men are villain here. It is a systemic design problem because we have created a wrong reward and punishing model. But the good news is, if we create awareness about it, the outcome will change. But we can't redesign culture if we don't name the script. And I think it is the time that we did.
Sure. So thanks, Kirti. I want to bring you to the last question. India is seeing a large generational shift as well in terms of demographics. So along with that, we're also seeing lots of psychological reconditioning and rebalance, including the younger generation questioning the older societal context and the filters that we have grown up with, biases and what we think work for us. So, if you were to, from your experience dealing in the therapy room, what will be one or two practical habits that people can adopt to reset power in their personal life? And I think I want to be very mindful that power need not, when we say power, everybody thinks of large celebrities and influencers, tall leaders, but power happens in between people, any two people. You put two people in the room, there is a power equation that comes up. So a practical habit, day to day, simple habit that they can reset that or readjust that.
I think there are two things that work for most of my clients. One is work is done ritual. It helps us in, like, when we don't consciously exit the work mode, we risk bringing our hierarchy habits at home. We are interrupting, we are commanding, we are solving problems when the other person just wanted active listening and empathetic response. So, the one way to deal with this is to create a ritual. You come back from work, change your clothes, go for a run, go for a walk, have a song, light a candle. I know an army officer, when he steps off his office, he takes off his cap and he does like this. He's literally shaking, dusting off the power that has gone to his head. So, this helps, like a 2 minute mindful pause before you ring the bell of your home. You can just remind, I'm home. I'm a partner. I'm not a manager. When you step into a meeting, like you said, when two people, even two people who are not powerful leaders, there's always a power dynamics. So whenever we are entering an interaction, we can set an attention that I will lead with care. I will lead. I'm a leader. I will lead, but I will lead with care. I will not lead with control. And second thing that helps is power audit. It can be done once a week or once a month, where you sit down with your partner and say, when you were sharing that story, how I responded, like, did you feel ignored or did you feel heard? That decision that we took, do you think it was one sided or it was our shared mutual decision? Such kind of power audits can actually help us from becoming small friction calcifying into something bigger.
Thank you, Kirti. Much appreciate you being on the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Srinath.